Live from New York City, it's the Gary Null Show. And now, your host, Gary Null.
I don't love you anymore. It's just that simple.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gary Null. Today, about 15 studies from around the world from the most respected institutions published in peer-reviewed journals, all on PubMed. These are natural and alternative, safe ways of extending the quality of life and overcoming disease. Also, today is commentary day. I have my own commentary. Also, I read a commentary on Paul Craig Roberts, who I have a lot of respect for Professor Roberts' views, and he had an article on there from Soren Korsgaard and about the criminal system and how we keep adding to it. I'll cite that one. I'm going to be sharing some insights today from a professor emeritus about G5, quote, the stupidest idea in the history of the world. He's Washington University professor. Also, the musician and original founder of Pink Floyd, Roger Waters, challenges Richard Branson and about the Venezuela regime change. So all that is going on now. So we'll deal with that. And Dr. Suzanne Humphreys on vaccines. We're going to have a segment on that. And also Robert F. Kennedy explains how Big Pharma completely owns Congress. So we have a lot of commentaries, and I'll be taking your calls. We have a new segment to our program where you have an opportunity to call in on a voicemail and state your question. And here is the number. Please write it down. 862-800-6805. 862-800-6805. And then not everybody can hear the program live each day, either through a land-based station or over the telephone. But if you have a telephone, any phone, cell phone, traveling, and you want to listen, we have our own app, by the way, Parian.fm. But you can write down this number and you can call and listen anywhere you're at. 641-793-7091. 641-793-60, excuse me, let me say that again. I want to make sure I got it correct. 641-793-7091. Let's begin with the latest on health and healing, as we do every day. And this is from the University of Denmark. This was published in the British medical journal, Open, and it's about acupuncture and how it can ease troublesome menstrual symptoms. And it can reduce hot flashes and sweating and mood swings and sleep disturbances and skin and hair problems. So a brief course of acupuncture may help ease troublesome menopausal symptoms, and this is this study. And among women dealing with moderate to severe symptoms, acupuncture was associated with reductions in everything I just mentioned. And the findings prompted the researchers to conclude that acupuncture, quote, offers a realistic treatment option for women who can't or don't want to use synthetic hormone replacement therapy, and I hope they don't. This reminds me of a debate that I had, and it was, I had like 2 hours. I was called at like 4 in the afternoon by the executive producer of a PBS national broadcast where the Surgeon General of the United States was appearing and was going to debate, and the person who was going to debate was not able to, so they said, "Would you like to come debate Surgeon General?" I said, "Sure." And that was it. I ended up, and one of the most important questions asked was about synthetic hormone replacement therapy. And the Surgeon General, Jocelyn Alders, gave an answer, and it's in that moment you realize, boy, she is not familiar with the scientific literature, in my opinion. So instead of making her look bad, which I did not see any point to, I don't believe in profiting at someone else's loss, I simply complimented her in being so concerned about women's issues and being the first Surgeon General that was going to make women's health issues a high priority, which she did, and I commend her for that. But then I simply said, and what Dr. Elders was referring to is there's a difference, and she did not have time to elucidate, but I will pick up on it. There's two types of hormone replacement therapy, synthetic hormone replacement therapy, and you don't want that because there's a 13% adverse effect. Now, what are the adverse effects of 10 million women? That's 1,300,000 women. Heart attacks, stroke, breast cancer, ovarian cancer, colorectal cancer, and dementia. Those are 6 major conditions, and each one of those could kill you. But if you looked at squall vine and dawn quai and faux tai and passion flower and vitex and other natural non-toxic therapies, those can help rebalance the hormones naturally. Wild yam extract. These are also a very important part of what are called compounding pharmacy, meaning pharmacies like I won't mention the name, but there's a pharmacy in Manhattan that will make specific for men and women, because men go through a hormone imbalance. It's called andropause, where they start to have an imbalance in the amount of testosterone that is in their body. And so they'll make these for you, and they're natural, non-toxic. So after the debate, and we were out in the hallway, she came over to me and she gave me a hug, and I just happened to have the book For Women Only, a 1,600-page book on women's health issues, co-authored by one of, in my opinion, one of the finest, more humanistic and spiritual of the second-wave feminists, Barbara Seaman. We were very close friends. We wrote this book together. We debated others around the United States. We did a PBS special together, and it was very successful, showing a more natural approach to helping women prevent disease and reverse it if they have it. Then I went on to do a special 1-year study, meeting every week with a group of 500 plus women who all were engaged in menopausal symptoms without relief, and over 60 different conditions: thinning of the gums, receding of the gum lines, losing your eyebrows, fatigue, malfunctioning of the thyroid gland, drying out of vaginal fluids, and hence chafing and pain and infections, all types of conditions. And within 1 year of sticking to the protocol, we were able to reverse 93% of all menopausal symptoms. And they stayed reversed because we kept a follow-up for the next 2 years. And this was published in a peer-reviewed journal. And so here they're saying acupuncture, and we actually advocated acupuncture. And here's the irony. If you look at how many studies exist in the Library of Medicine on acupuncture, thousands. So there have been large studies and small studies, but the fact is it works. And it shouldn't be denigrated, as Wikipedia and Jimmy Wells have denigrated it, and some of the skeptics have denigrated it. So here's a question for Jimmy Wells and the people who call themselves experts on Wikipedia and edit columns. Do you have a board-certified medical background in the field of medicine? Are you practicing in that? Do you have patients in that? Have you done clinical studies in it? Have you published in the peer-reviewed literature? Have you presented your findings that have showed benefit to patients before large groups of independent scientists? Because there are tens of thousands of doctors who've done exactly that. So on the one side of the equation we have Harvard, Yale, Stanford, Columbia, very prestigious schools with some outstanding research that has been published in the New England Journal of Medicine, the Journal of the American Medical Association, Nature, the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science, hundreds of thousands of studies like on vitamin C and vitamin E and vitamin D and also resveratrol. And then there's also validation of acupuncture and chiropractic. On the other side of this equation is Jimmy Wells, who's not board certified in anything and has published on nothing that is relevant to this, and the skeptics who are equally non-familiar and not interested, but boy, they love to denigrate. So isn't it interesting that the number one site in the world to go to get your information on acupuncture or homeopathy or alternative medicine or vitamins also is the single most biased source that I can find personally on the planet. So just imagine, wrap your mind around this for a moment. This is not existential. This is almost a virtual pass forward. On the one hand, you have hundreds of thousands of scientists and researchers and clinicians and journals and publications and peer review without monetary interest. No politics or ideology. On the other hand, you have this tiny little group of people within Wikipedia headed by this massive egotist, Jimmy Wales, saying we're right and the entire world is wrong. The whole history of Chinese traditional medicine, all of you are wrong. Is that not xenophobic? Is that not racist? All of you Indians, what do you know about Ayurvedic? That's just nonsense. What do you know about traditional Native American? That's all stupid. What do you know about the bush doctors in Jamaica? That's idiot. And denigrating everything that they have absolutely no knowledge about, and no one finds that at all offensive? Wow. Boy, there's something the entire mainstream media missed, didn't they? And all of science and all of medicine. People who set themselves up as experts, and all they do is denigrate, libel, and slander. Okay. And for today, they've gotten away with it. Tomorrow's another day. So trust the University of Denmark, trust the British Medical Journal, trust the authors that this acupuncture eased women's suffering. But what if you were a woman and went to Wikipedia because you had symptoms and you want to see whether or not it would help? And they said, no, acupuncture doesn't work. Okay. That's taking a lot of responsibility for other people's health. From Harvard School of Public Health, published in the American Heart Association Journal, Circulation Research. Eating nuts may reduce cardiovascular disease risk for people with diabetes. Now, they kind of go hand in hand. All told, pre-diabetic and diabetic, you're dealing more or less with 100 million American adults. And by the way, a lot of children. And when you have diabetes or metabolic syndrome, you also have a much higher rate of heart attack, stroke, cardiovascular conditions, cancers. So eating more nuts, particularly tree nuts, may reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease, which saves lives. Now, type 2 diabetes is associated with an increased risk of higher cholesterol, heart disease, and stroke. And it's a big deal. So nuts are full of unsaturated fatty acids and phytochemicals and fibers, vitamins like vitamin E and folate. And it has minerals like calcium, potassium, magnesium. And they're good for you. In the latest case study, researchers used the 16,217 men and women who were in this study, and then they looked to see what was the outcome, and quote, our findings provide new evidence that supports recommendations of including nuts in healthy dietary patterns for the prevention of cardiovascular disease complications and premature deaths among individuals with diabetes, end quote. And that was headed by Dr. Liu, a nutritional sciences researcher at Harvard's Chan School of Public Health. So, diabetes, you're helped with nuts. Which nuts are the best? If I had to rank based upon what I know about the best nuts, your tree nuts, number one would be walnuts. Then almonds, Brazil nuts, cashews, pistachios, pecans, macadamias, hazelnuts, and pine nuts. They all are good for your heart. Mind you, peanuts are not nuts, they're legumes. And also peanuts grow underground. So cardiovascular disease is one serious condition. So if there's something as simple and inexpensive and easy to take and tasty as a nut, please do so. From University of Oxford, and where we're filming this week, bright sunshine exposure can decrease the risk of type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. This was published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism. Healthy middle-aged adults exposed to more bright sunlight in the 7 days before providing a blood sample had lower levels of markers indicating risk for insulin resistance, and that's important. So sunlight had a whole nother way of helping people. And this was headed by a Dr. Kenstenudis, MD, PhD, university researcher on this. So, and published in that important journal. So more sunlight, that would be good. And want to be happy? According to University of Leeds, eat your fruits and vegetables. So we know that it's good for our physical body, cleansing, detoxifying, rejuvenating. Yes, it does all that. But it also puts us in a better frame of mind. Those who reported better mental well-being and satisfaction with life. And also, this was over a 5-year period. So eating a plant-based diet is not only lowering inflammation, but that would make you feel better. Improving your mood so you don't have depression, that would make you feel that life has more meaning. So it's important. We don't eat enough fruits and vegetables in the United States. We need a lot more. Also, exercising in the morning or afternoon to shift your body clock forward. University of California, published in the Journal of Physiology. So exercise can shift the human body clock with the direction and amount of this effect depending upon the time of day or night in which people exercise. That's according to this newest research. And these findings suggest exercise could also counter the effects of jet lag, shift work, and other disruptions to the body's internal clock, helping individuals adjust to shifted schedules. And this is all about the circadian, C-I-R-C-A-D-I-A-N, circadian body clock, is the 24-hour cycle that regulates many physiological processes, including sleeping and eating. And many factors affect the internal body clock, including light and time cues. And have you ever noticed you don't need an alarm clock? You go to bed, and if you go to bed at a regular time, you wake up almost to the second. No alarm needed. That's because of your circadian clock. So the study found that exercising at 7 a.m. or between 1 and 4 p.m. advanced the body clock to an earlier time. And exercising in the evening, 7 to 10 p.m., delayed the body clock to a later time. So it would be very important for people who have night shift. Also, finally, from Institute of Research in Brazil, a naturally occurring plant compound shows potential for treating Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and depression. Now, why is this important? Because scientists have learned a lot about most of the body's organs over the decades. And the growing body of knowledge on the liver and the heart and lungs and kidneys has enabled many people to enjoy better health outcomes in recent times. However, there is still a lot about the brain that we don't know. For example, just today, there was an article, and I read it on the Natural Blaze, about neuroscientists making a jaw-dropping discovery of a wireless brain communication. That's correct. A team of researchers studying the brain have discovered a brand new and previously unidentified form of wireless neural communication that self-propagates across brain tissue and is capable of leaping from neurons in one part of the brain to another, even if the connection between them has been severed. Whoa. This was done at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, reported by Elias Merritt. And anyhow, I'm bringing the scientists on this on the air to discuss this in great depth because we need to know this kind of information. What that means, I'll just give you a suggested hypothesis. It means that those of us who believed that the epigenetics, the larger and overview environment that we live in, is more significant and has more energy that is used than what we've ever measured or believed existed. So a thought has power, and it goes beyond the neurons. It can be projected. because the neurons themselves can project thought and communicate without any physical contact. That is a paradigm shift in science. That's a big deal. So when we're talking about something that would help people with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and depression, and they're looking at the brain and saying, gee, there's so much we don't know. Yeah, and there are things we do know. And this that we do know, for example, is that there are flavonoids. Flavonoid and or flavonoid. Flavonoid. And there's one specific one called apigenin, Apigenin. And it can improve the formation of neurons and strengthen the connections between brain cells. And when they applied apigenin to human stem cells in a lab, neurons formed in less than a month, something that would not have happened without apigenin. And on top of that, these neurons form stronger and more sophisticated communications between one another. In effect, this is essential for brain health in general and learning and memory in particular. Their findings are published in Advances in Regenerative Biology. So we're really cranking here. And where are you going to get these flavonoids? Well, grapes, yeah. All the berries. So those who have been slowing down the proliferation of cancer cells because of a diet, now we have a basis for it. Those of you who are finding that you can develop plasticity, maturation, and function in the nervous system, even though it's been damaged, like with multiple sclerosis and Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, yeah, apigenin could be a viable alternative as it binds to estrogen receptors, which are known to impact function and development of the nervous system. So this is all possible. I'm Gary Null, sharing the latest on health and healing. We're going to come back and go directly into your questions. Please stay with us.
I had a question for Gary, and perhaps I can just tell you now what it is. My name is Carol, and I'm from Brooklyn, and I've heard that the sulforaphane in cruciferous vegetables is potentially not healthy for people with hypothyroidism. However, I've also heard that by cooking, you can eliminate or lessen the effects of the sulforaphane. Is that true? And what do you recommend? Thank you.
It is partially true. If someone came to see me with, let's say, an underactive thyroid, I would be cautious in how many of the cruciferous vegetables I was advocating they consume. But if you have cancer, if you are susceptible to cancer because of your lifestyle up to this point, then it's not just sulforaphane. It is the indole-3 carbanols and the isothiocyanates. These are specific chemicals in broccoli, but also in the brassica family. You would have kale, radishes in there, arugula, Brussels sprouts also are part of that, asparagus. And I don't recommend people consuming these raw. They should be steamed so you can break down their fibrous material and benefit from the anti-cancerous properties. And having them in a slightly cooked way liberates more. You have a much higher bioavailability. And I just would make them only one part of a very balanced diet, not a heavy part. And then you can monitor your T3, T4 levels, and have your endocrinologist or your internist tell you whether or not it's improving or challenging your thyroid. So, And I wrote a really definitive article on thyroidism, and of all types, with Dr. Martin Feldman, and it was published in the Townsend Letter for Doctors. I don't know how many articles. In fact, I actually sent a message to our archivist, Sharon, today. How many investigative reporting articles I've written, how many scientific articles I've written, I have no idea. I believe the last count I had was over 800. So it's one of those, and it's not difficult to find. It's on thyroid. I think it's 2 parts. It's a long article. But that's what I would recommend. Okay, we'll take another call.
Hey, Gary. My question to you is, who is the next Gary Null? Do you have a successor, an heir apparent? Is there somebody you've taken under your wing? What your show does is so valuable. Just for me, I became a vegan listening to your show, and I randomly found you channel surfing one day, and it's changed my life completely. So that's my question. Thanks, Gary, for all the amazing work that you've done. Bye.
That is not easy to answer, but let me break it into some parts and see if you can connect these together, bring them together. Because each of us will hear something differently depending upon what we filter out that doesn't align with our own preconceived mindset. There's not going to be anyone following me. There will be many other people who will have their own unique and original perspective of what it means to share insights into the human condition, as there has been historically. Do you compare, for example, Fred Astaire? Who do you compare Fred Astaire with? The Nicholas Brothers? Who do you compare the Nicholas Brothers with? I just posted a Nicholas Brothers. In fact, when I just finished publishing Black Hollywood, the history of the African American in Hollywood, which took 7 years of research, and I'm walking down Broadway, and suddenly I see Harold Nichols right on 86 and Broadway. So I went over to him and I said, I have just received a copy of my book, an author's copy, and I want to give it to you as a gift. Please wait here for a minute. And he said, okay. So I ran up to my apartment. At that time, I lived in between Amsterdam and Broadway. I got my only copy, and I brought it down, and I assigned it to him. And I just let him know that there was a unedited, no rehearsal. It was one shot. They did this dance routine with Cab Calloway. I posted it. Go to my Facebook. You want to see something that'll pull your spirit up. They did a flawless routine. It's about 4 minutes. And the best dancing, it was so effortless. And I'm talking about leaps that were like 10 feet, landing, split, standing up, twirling around. They did it all. So who replaces them? No one. Who replaces Cary Grant? I was just watching on Turner Television the other night, the Philadelphia Story. Even when he's supposed to be the heavy, he was fun to watch. So what I'm saying is this. Instead of always thinking that we have to have someone replace Will Chamberlain or replace, Brett Favre, replace Joe Namath, nobody replaces these people. If they're that good and they've left some form of indelible mark, if they have left a legacy that has helped people, inspired us, entertained us, motivated us, then that's what it is. Let the next person do what they do in a unique, individual way. So that's the way when we look back, we have a lot of people in our lives. And as long as you keep looking further back, you see, wow, how many other people provided us with an opportunity? How many people in the environmental movement are all standing on one person's shoulders? One person. Rachel Carson. And how many people today don't even appreciate that the player piano, blood plasma that could save their life, the street light, over 1,000 inventions were invented by African Americans. Who replaced them? Who took their place? Other people who had their own ideas. Huh? We don't take anyone's place in life, and we shouldn't. We simply are given our own opportunity and time, and we do the best we can with it. We'll have our successes and failures, we'll learn our lessons, and hopefully we will be remembered with a smile. That's the best we can do, any of us. You don't have a a stepmother replace a biological mother. That mother dies. There is no replacing it. There is only some other person who has an opportunity to share the energy they have. And we all have energy. So it's not that I'm better than anyone. I'm just uniquely me. And I hope you're uniquely you. And it also depends upon our life energy, whether we're dynamic or supportive, and what we do at the high or low end in our life energies. That's important as well. So when I came into the health field, and this is another piece of this puzzle, I had a best-selling book, the most successful health book in the history of America. And I was invited by a really nice man. Clinton Miller was his name, and he was the head of the National Health Federation. And he said, Gary, we'd like you to come over now that you're, on all Johnny Carson, all these television shows, and you got your own radio show. Come on over to the convention center, New York Coliseum, 59th and Broadway, because everyone in the health field is going to be there. And I said, why do you want me there? He said, well, you could be the next Carlton Fredericks. Now, I'd never met Carlton Fredericks. I'd seen him on television. He was always smoking a cigarette on television. I thought that was rather unbecoming to be the leader. He was the leader of the whole health movement in America. He was witty. He was sarcastic, unfortunately. And so when I went over there that day, I'm a kid. I'm naive, I'm stupid. And I go in, and the whole room was filled with cigarette smoke. I mean, everybody was smoking. The biggest table was just booze, hard alcohol. And when the little food they had, it was the little little pork sausage with a toothpick in it. And Clinton walked around and introduced me to everyone. And like 20 people, all legends in the health field. And then I looked out from the room they were all in to the stage, and someone was out there lecturing, and they were all white-headed people. They were all old. And so I went to Clinton Miller. I said, why am I here again? He says, because you're going to be the new Carlton Fredericks. No. Carlton Fredericks unique. He deserves this crowd. They deserve him. His message resonates. Mine won't. I got to be who I am. Let him be who he is. Now, mind you, I'm in my 20s and they're all in their 70s. There was a 50-year gap where no one ever think they would leave the scene, and so there was no replacements. And I decided that day that I didn't want anything more to do with the health field because I didn't see anything healthy in that health field. I didn't hear any healthy messages. Eat a big protein diet. That was Carlton Fredericks' message. Everybody has hypoglycemia. No, everyone didn't have hypoglycemia. Some of the dumbest statements I've ever heard. And then later, Carlton Fredericks invited me to lunch, and I didn't know what this was about. And we're having lunch, and I'm having a salad, and he's having some white bread and some meat and coffee and smoking. At that time, you could smoke in restaurants. And he was there to tell me what I had to do in order to succeed in the health field, or I would be gone, in a month. The public will pass you by. Okay, well, that didn't happen. So understand that in every field, we're always going to have the next person wanting to have their chance, and they should be given that chance. Men and women, whoever you are, you should be given every opportunity to see what you're made of. We will not all succeed the same. We will not all be the ideal that we hope in our own minds or others expect. But we'll be uniquely ourselves. And I think we've got to get out of this whole idea of grooming people to be the next anything. If you want to see the worst of what you're suggesting, the worst that could happen of getting someone to be a successor, look at corporate America. Look at the people within the banking community in Wall Street. Do you think that in any corporation, General Motors to GE Capital to Goldman Sachs to any of the mercantile accounts, do you think any of them is a person coming off the street that has their own unique hold on reality? No. You're groomed so that the transfer will not be noticed by anyone. So your own unique qualities, your own insights are gelled into, homogenized into, blandardized into, standardized into a program of making money and keeping everyone happy. Now look at your body politic. Look at Hillary Clinton. Look at Barack Obama. Look at Bill Clinton. Look at George Bush. Look at all of them. They all were groomed and selected for their grooming and years of grooming, and then bringing a support system in because they wanted continuity. They wanted someone who would be predictable, someone who would give the same outcome as someone else, and they got it. So there's the worst that can happen when who's the next? Who's going to be the next conservative? Who's going to be the next liberal? Does it make a difference? Can you show me a viable difference in the policies of these people? No. Show me the person is unique, at least is different. Show me Rocky Anderson. Show me, Jill Stein. Show me Ralph Nader. Now there's an original for you. He was not just original, but he was not going to carry on policies that were not against the corporate interest. He was going to be against the corporate interest and for the public. And so he couldn't fit. So he didn't have a support system. So he wasn't groomed. He wasn't selected. And that's why he got 1%. You see, that's why we won't vote for independent candidates. We're terrified of not having this sequence of stability, even if the stability of continuity is kleptocracy, duopoly, oligarchy. We'd rather have that. Who do you think these fools are, these idiots, these psychopaths, these degenerates who go to Davos every year? Do you think that John Walters would stand in the same room as Bono? Bono's a corporatist. Yeah. And John Waters is one of probably the single most progressive rock musician out there. There are others, but he is at the top because he's willing to sacrifice and go on the record for things. And how many are willing to do that? Oh, you get in line, you get groomed, you get manicured, pedicured, you get a big colonoscopy, because we want to make sure that you don't do anything unexpected, original, or act out. In fact, I believe we even have a Roger Waters piece. And tell me who he follows.
It's 4 days until February the 22nd, which is the day when Richard Branson claims that he's going to put on a Live Aid-ish concert in Colombia near the border to raise humanitarian aid for the people of Venezuela. This came from a Daily Mail article, and I've just seen a video clip of Branson with his bleeding heart worn openly upon his Virgin Airways T-shirt. The important thing about this is that even if you listen to their shtick, it has nothing to do with humanitarian aid at all. It has to do with Richard Branson, and I'm not surprised by this, having bought the U.S. saying, we have decided to take over Venezuela for whatever our reasons may be, but it has nothing to do with the needs of the Venezuelan people. It has nothing to do with democracy. It has nothing to do with freedom, and it has nothing to do with aid. I have friends who are in Caracas right now. There is so far no civil war, no mayhem, no murder, no apparent dictatorship, no mass imprisonment of opposition, no suppression of the press. None of that is going on, even though that is the narrative that is being sold to the rest of us. So we just need to back off, particularly Richard Branson. Okay, and Peter Gabriel, my friend, please call me. I want to talk to you about this, because it's very easy to be led down a garden path that ends in regime change. Do we really want Venezuela to turn into another Iraq or Syria or Libya? I don't, and neither do the Venezuelan people. All right, I'll stop.
Okay, but keep in mind, Roger, there are millions of people in the United States who need the lie to be codified that Venezuela is a failed socialist system. It is not. It is not socialism that has failed the Venezuelan people. It is allowing a large, powerful, pro-American group of business people who want to be able to run the country and exploit oil resources with other companies. And the CIA has been behind this. But Rogers has the courage to stand up and talk out. Others, and he's fully conscious of what he's talking about, and he's educated. A lot of people who are popular and celebrities, they don't use their celebrity status. Some do, but most don't, for the better good. Now here's a doctor, a scientist, a emeritus professor, who is standing up and speaking out against the worst technology in the world today that's going to hit all of us. The 5G. Don't have anything in your life that's 5G. He said it's the stupidest idea in the history of the world, and he's one of America's foremost scientists. Listen to what he has to say at a hearing.
5G is the stupidest idea in the history of the world, says a Washington professor. Sean Adeltabatabai News Punch reports. Implementing 5G across the country is one of the most dangerous and stupidest ideas in the history of the world, a top biochemistry professor has warned. According to a recent report by Dr. Martin L. Paul, Professor Emeritus of Biochemistry and Basic Medical Sciences at Washington State University, 5G poses a massive health risk for EU, US, and international health. He states that, quote, putting in tens of millions of 5G antenna without a single biological test of safety has got to be about the stupidest idea anyone has had in the history of the world, unquote. I think most of us agree with his statement. Collective Evolution reports that report goes through a lot of science, which only adds to all of the science that's already available regarding the harmful effects of 5G technology. If you're looking for more information, I often point people towards the Environmental Health Trust because it's a great resource that gives you access to more science. This is not new information. For years, numerous studies have been published proving the health concerns regarding 5G technology, and hundreds of scientists have petitioned the United Nations about them. These initiatives started as a result of the work done by Dr. Martin Blank from Columbia University's Department of Psychology and Cellular Biophysics. According to him, with regards to wireless radiation in general, quote, we have created something that is harming us, and it is getting out of control. Before Edison's light bulb, there was very little electromagnetic radiation in our environment. The levels today are very many times higher than natural background levels and are growing rapidly because of all the new devices that emit this radiation. Putting it bluntly, they are damaging the living cells in our bodies and killing many of us prematurely, unquote. Again, it's unbelievable that these technologies are being rolled out without any safety testing done. How is this even allowed to happen? The thing is, if there was safety testing done, there would likely be no changes made anyway, and these corporations would be allowed to roll out and utilize these technologies. Seeing how this article is about the work of Dr. Paul, below is the lecture that goes into detail about his research and why we should be concerned with 5G technology. It's embedded in the video you'll have in the article. During the Health in Buildings Roundtable, it was sponsored by NIH and co-organized by the US CDC and several other organizations. Well, if the CDC knows about this, the CDC should really make their statement really heard for to the President, to the Congress, to the Senate, and to the United Nations. Now, Dr. Paul from Washington State University, WSU, concluded that the 5G rollout is absolutely insane. In this short presentation, Dr. Paul confirms that the current 2G, 3G, 4G radiation the population is exposed to has been scientifically linked to lower fertility, insomnia, fatigue, depression, anxiety, major changes in the brain structure in animals, and therefore humans as well, I would say, cellular DNA damage, oxidative stress, hormonal disruption, cancer, and much more. So you can imagine what 5G will do. Now, Dr. Paul briefly explained the mechanisms of how the electrosmog emitted by our cell phones, Wi-Fi routers, cell phone antennas, and other wireless technologies affect human cells. They have written about this topic in depth, and below are some recent articles we've published that go into more detail if you're looking for more information.
That was from Collective Consciousness. I want to just take a few moments here because our sister station, we're on a lot of stations around the world, and one of them is in some need of financial help. And just in December, you came through with tens of thousands of dollars, no premium, just to help the station. And the people at the station, Linda Perry, the program director, Andrea Katz, the development director, and the station manager, Bertold Reimers, were all absolutely, dumbstruck by how many people in this audience supported the station with just the fact that it needed to be supported. So we thank you for that. We're in another fund drive right now, and the reason that I'm heard so often, and I have to apologize for this, because historically, until the coup, until those who wanted to change BAI and were able to, and not in my opinion for the better, we had never had to play more than 2 weeks to raise over $1,100,000. And now we're lucky to raise $300,000 in a month. So we don't have the audience we once had. So we have to try harder. We have to be more original. And what we've done is once a year we put together a retreat. This year it's going to be the last week of April and the first week of May. And wonderful things happen at retreats. People de-stress, they relax, they cleanse, they get exercise in. Lots of lectures. Sometimes I'll do an average of a 3-hour lecture at night on a unique topic, different every night. But during the day I give little mini lectures. And there's workshops galore. Beautiful environment. You just couldn't ask for a more bucolic and serene environment with eagles in the tree. You can sit right under a tree with eagles. They live there all year. And you'll see swans on the lake and go into a butterfly house to meditate with rippling water and butterflies. It's paradise. And wonderful staff comes together from all over the country to help this. We're all donating our time. If you'd like to join us, and it's things can happen that I don't believe could happen anyplace else. If you're up for changing your perspectives in life and harmonizing with the best you can be, this is the ticket to do it. And we have a couple people, and one of them I'll play just part of it because I still want to give my commentary. This is from Zoe, and Zoe had been to a couple of years ago, but had, like a lot of people, and this happens, she had lost her focus and ended up with something that she considered very serious. And after she heard that a person she knew, Tom Larson, passed recently, a couple of weeks ago, she said, whoa, because they were in a lot of communication, and that's when I got the call, could I help? So listen to what she has to say, because she's not telling what she has, she chose not to, but she's telling you what she learned. And this is not a regular retreat, but this was just a little mini thing I did for a few people who I knew, all of whom knew Tom, and all wouldn't have come, but they called me because they realized, wow, as the Buddha says, you don't have time. Listen to what she has to say, just a few minutes of it.
My name is Zoe. I am going back home to Hungary. I had an incredible 3 weeks learning from Gary. Gary, who literally saved my life. With his insights and supervision, now I feel and I know that I can have a quality life. I would like to back up so you understand the story. I'm an artist. I'm very conscientious. I wasn't doing a bad diet. I exercise a lot. And somehow, with lots of family issues and focusing on my career, I didn't realize that I started to slip. And all of a sudden, I woke up and I realized one day that I'm very overweight compared to my fighting shape. And we know that weight gain doesn't just happen overnight. So I was frantic to know, where did I slip? I could not put my finger on it. I didn't know, where did I lose the control or the focus. And I asked Gary's help. I believed, and I know that he has those answers that I needed, as I said, for that desired quality of life. I had a good friend who used to go to Gary's retreats, namely Tom Larson, the wonderful person, and I saw him at the retreats. He was overweight, and with that overweight, he had a lot of conditions, and he was participating nicely at the retreats. He had really great results. I actually witnessed that many times with Gary's help. And somehow, when he went back home, he just couldn't apply it. He kept losing the focus and kept losing that edge. And he was slipping back to a very bad lifestyle, a diseasing lifestyle. And Tom passed away a few weeks ago, and it was a shock to me. I was thinking of those retreats when he was learning from Gary, and he was keeping the protocols, and it's a huge warning for me also not to follow that example where someone is doing good at the retreats, and yet when they go home they can't apply in their lives. So it's almost like the whole thing was...
There's about 8 minutes. I just want to cut it there. So the outcome is that she is back home in Budapest, in the capital of Hungary, and the things that she chose not to look at were taking an enormous impact on her life, putting her life in jeopardy, serious jeopardy. And yet, how do we adapt to that? How do we maladapt to that? We're looking in the mirror and we're not seeing it. What are we filtering? How are we filtering it? How are we living this kind of denial? So intense detoxification went on, and the good news is that she's no longer at this moment in harm's way if she sticks on the protocol, and that's the key, because for a year after Tom called me from the emergency room with congestive heart failure for the third time in 10 years, and each time I'd bring him back and save his life, and he would acknowledge that publicly many times. He lost 125 pounds. In fact, he was there with Fred Fisher. Fred lost 347 pounds, and plus was no longer diabetic and no longer had high blood pressure. He appeared on a PBS special with me. He was so happy. Added 25 years onto his life. Tom was with him when he did that, but when he went home, boom. Out the door goes all the discipline, and back comes all those conditioned habits. And I can't tell you how many times I said, Tom, isn't it time you gave yourself time? Oh, yeah, but I got responsibility for other people. I said, Tom, what happens to those other people if you should pass? Isn't it important to put time on yourself and give yourself an opportunity to heal? Yeah, I'll do it as soon as I retire. When he retired, he didn't do it. And then it was too late. We see that. Here's another person that has some remarkable changes.
Ms. Eisel, before I came to the retreat, I was fighting breast cancer. I had excruciating pain on my left side. I was 20 pounds underweight, and by following the protocol, I have movement in my arm, no pain, and with this week alone, I've gained 4 pounds. I became more in tune with my emotions and gained communication skills, and I'm going to go home and live.
My name's Steve. I'm a board-certified physician, and I spent a week...
Well, hold on for Steve a moment. That was a year ago, and I wanted to see her progress. She is cancer-free, and she's gained 15 pounds. She's at her ideal 122, 123, and has enormous energy. She's a single mother of 3 children, and she says, I need to live for my children, I need to live for myself. But she has no pain, no cancer, and she's gained back all the weight that she needed to. That was a year ago that you heard she made that comment, and I just spoke with her 2 weeks ago. Now, this is a board-certified Orthodox physician, and he has his own perspective.
And gained communication skills, and I'm going to go home and live.
My name's Steve. I'm a board-certified physician, and I spent a week at the villa, and I've observed many visitors here who have had incredible changes in their medical conditions. Now, Gary says he never treats medical conditions, but that's the way my brain functions. And I've seen people come here with infected wounds on their legs and ulcers that have healed in as little as a week. I've seen people with diabetes that their sugars have normalized in the course of 1 week. And I've seen a man who had diabetic neuropathy and had a terrible time walking. In fact, when he first came here, he couldn't walk. And 5 days later, he's walking very well, with some difficulty, but he's walking, whereas when he first came here, he was in a wheelchair. And what I'm experiencing here is a different way of healing the body. My background in traditional medicine
is that he's never seen anything like this. I don't promise anybody anything. I just say that you're going to have a wonderful experience with nature. You're going to get the best juices and cleansing and detox and de-stressing and positive, upbeat energy, lots of laughter and joy, insights. So if this is important to you, if you believe you deserve it, if you're going to give yourself some time to heal at a deeper level, emotionally and physically, then call Luann. Luann's on the phone now. Hi, Luann.
Hi, Gary. Yes, call me at 903-881-7008. That's 903-881-7008. Give me a call. I interview everyone to make sure it's the right event for them. And if not, there's always other places that I might be able to direct people if it's not the right event. So please give me a call, 903-881-7008.
Okay, again, that's 903-881-7008. We're out of time. I will do my commentaries tomorrow. Wanted to help out our sister station, WBAI, and we raised enough money from last year's retreat to buy more than 1,000 premiums, so everybody got their premium. Have a nice day, everybody.